Welcome back to Out of the Rough. I'm joined by Lovette Mioni. Lovette Mioni is an attorney with Reape-Rickett law firm. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you specialize in family law. Tell me specifically, and those watching this online and on TV, what is family law?
Typically, it's divorce, and along with divorce comes child custody and visitation, spouse support, child support, division of assets and debts. We also do adoptions and domestic violence restraining orders. Basically, anything that you can think of that a family unit would need legal services for.
That affects the family. So, I mean, divorce is unfortunately a big part of our society, and it's a sad part of our society, but you know it happens, and hopefully you go your separate ways in a friendly way. But what are some tips we can give? Someone's in a little bit of a battle with their spouse. What are some tips you can give so that people can get out of the rough and have a successful one in a successful negotiation?
While it may be hard, the best advice you could give would be to put the emotion and the anger aside, because that really facilitates the mediation process much better. People are more willing to give and take if they can leave the emotions at the door and realize, you know, you get half the assets, I get half the assets, and we can move on. And I don't want your favorite car that you drive every single day. I can let you have that and offset that with other vehicles or other assets, because sometimes it does get bitter and people do things just to spite each other. So if you can remove yourself from that, it'll make the divorce process so much easier.
And sometimes you get heated conversations, so email?
Yes, if you are having problems communicating with your spouse, email would be a good way to address your points and concerns, so that way you're not having a fight on the phone or a fight in front of your children, which is never good. And you know, you can have time to sit and reflect on your thoughts. Another good tool would be to use your attorneys to facilitate communication. So you can just relay something to your attorney and they can then relay it to your spouse's attorney. And then really it doesn't leave room for argument between the parties.
Yeah, it reduces the conflict.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's touch upon something that a lot of people are curious about, and that is, how is spousal support determined and child support?
Spousal support is obviously based on the income of each party. And there's also a number of factors that the court takes into consideration. The length of the marriage. For instance, if you're married for 10 years or less, the rule of thumb is that you pay spousal support for half the length of the marriage. For marriages of 10 years or longer, it really depends on the factors. But some of the things the court takes into consideration is the earning potential of each spouse. So even if one spouse isn't working, but they have, you know, a master's degree or a law degree, for instance, the court would expect them to work and may impute wages that they would be able to earn. If one party stayed at home during the marriage to take care of the children, the court takes that into consideration. But the biggest factor, obviously, is the income of each party. And the same would go for child support. The child support is a little more cut and dry. It just takes the income of each party and the timeshare with the child into consideration, and we put it into a computer program, and it spits out,
tells you what you're going to pay.
A number for us. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about something happy, adoptions. You know, unfortunately, you can't have children, or you choose to have more and adopt.
Yeah, adoptions, the most common adoptions that we see in the family law realm are step-parent adoptions. A lot of times just one parent, for whatever reason, is absent from the life of the child, and a mother decides that she's going to remarry, and the stepfather would then adopt it. And that process, you would have to go about terminating the parental rights of the biological father, for instance, and then the stepfather could adopt. But yeah, it's a pretty seamless process. I mean, it's not as difficult as people would think. Most of the time it's just paperwork. So a lot of times the paralegal is just filling out paperwork and back checking, and yeah, it is a happier process.
Yeah, I like to talk about that only because it's a much happier process of having to deal with family matters, right?
Right, it is. It's a happy experience for everyone.
Well, what's typical? One last question when it comes to the divorce. What's typical as far as visitation? Normally, is it split 60-40? What's common? What do you normally see?
It depends on the age of the child. For infants, for instance, if a mother is breastfeeding, the visitation will be heavy on the mother's side. Once the child gets older, the court the ideal situation in any divorce is 50-50 custody because a child needs the mother and the father equally. Granted, when they're younger, they may be breastfeeding or they may be other issues. So the court likes to see 50-50 custody, but it also depends on who works and the amount of time they work, and if someone was a stay-at-home mother and the other party is okay with funding that still, it depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah, a lot of factors. Well, thanks. Those that want to reach you, how can they reach out to you?
Our website is divorcedigest.com, and our phone number is 661-288-1000.
Great. Well, thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Lovette Mioni from the law firm of Reape-Rickett Law. Thanks again.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this edition of Out of the Rough. I'm Fred Arnold. And if you like to view this online, go to scvtv.com or fredarnold.com. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me at fred@fredarnold.com. Maybe suggest a great guest like you, Lovette here. Until next time, make it a healthy and prosperous day, and I hope this show helps get you out of the rough.